On the 23rd of this month, Srimati Meghna, the founder of the foundation school, etc., in Hyderabad, asked me to take part in one of her common sense lecture series organized by her for online TV chat online participants on various subjects of social importance. I was asked to speak about my experience and then in the context of use of common sense. And then I gave a lecture, and the lecture is arranged between 7 and 8, and maybe the questions were asked by Srimati Meghna herself in order to clarify, and went on answering her queries, etc., to the best of my ability in terms of it. And she told me that it was well received by the people, the participants, etc. They said they have learned something new from my lecture, they wanted me to give something more and they would like to hear it again. And then they have given at last one of the things after my lecture was over. They should like to know one thing about the common sense, and that is for me to add it to the earlier lecture in terms of it, that is whether common sense has changed over the 100 years. Common sense as a concept has not changed. Common sense is used for solving problems. It spells out a set of procedures for solving the problem. The procedures vary on the basis of the level of technology, on the basis of knowledge at any present time, and then they are applied to solve the problems, and these are based upon consensus. The practices are based upon consensus. The standard of performance of those practices are also accepted as a consensus. Normally in standard formulation, where they wanted to consider various practices in that trade or profession or other thing, to evaluate a standard, they want consensus. In order to ultimately compromises are solved, accepted, and then you get a draft standard which says, and then again it is circulated. The process is cumbersome, but the process is followed in order to get an acceptable consensus for all the people, that they will follow the standard in order to, during their practices, whatever may be the thing. Therefore, obtaining consensus is itself a series of problems in terms of. Therefore, when you say the consensus suggests these practices to solve a problem, it also should adhere to the standard of practices which are suggested in that particular problem in terms of. Therefore, here in terms of the thing, consensus is a necessary component of a common sense approach in terms of the thing. Therefore, on this basis, consensus is something that we use automatically. Practices which are common, we follow that automatically. In many cases, there are conventions, there are practices. If I follow the practice, I am following common sense. If I am following the convention, then I am following the common sense in terms of this one. If I violate anything, I am violating this particular thing. And there are things which conventions which says it is a taboo to do it. Therefore, when I go to a temple, the first thing is I say, close my hand and then started close my eyes and pray. This is the convention accepted by the society. In that particular society, when I go to the thing, I must leave my chappal outside, go near the thing and then play. These are all conventions accepted by any group or society. And the society frames these practices as conventions. The religion does it, the society does it, all these are done, or the society does it as conventions in a group. In any bigger one, in scientific and other things, the society says, you follow these procedures at this standard, at this temperature, at this one, then it becomes convention. If I follow those standards and then solve a problem, I am following common sense. If I violate any one of them, I introduce something new in terms of it, then it's not common sense. What happens is, I am violating the convention, say the common sense, the convention one. But then what happens is, if my procedure is successful, then what I change is taken as innovation. My thing is taken as innovation, and then the society accepts that step as one of the things. It is included in the practices, and the practices follows common sense. If I follow the new one, then it becomes again common sense in terms of the thing. Therefore, another thing is, common sense is, you have ethical values addressed to this one. You should not do this, you should not do that, you should not do. You have ethical standards, which are not in the shape of convention. It is something outside I take on the basis of ethical one. Say, do no harm is your vision. I say, do no harm is your vision. The practices I suggest in the common sense should ensure that my practices do not do any harm. When I do the thing in terms of it, these are external, but I have to follow the ethical value to that the thing. One example I give is of the Google one. The Google one, in its vision, in its statement, it says, do no harm is one of our basic accepted vision statement. Therefore, I say that people who are working here, they come to do whatever they do, their work should not do harm to the society in terms of one. They should see that whatever they do doesn't harm society. It may be good, you may be able to succeed in doing that one, but what you do should not harm the society. Therefore, when Google took up a defense project, there was complete protest by the staff. The protest said, now what you are doing is you are going to the military. Military uses it for technology, for killing people, for doing that one, the harmful thing you are doing, and you are saying you are going to collaborate with them in terms of the thing. You are violating your basic convention that you are doing no harm. Now they did the CEO did all sorts of compromises, discussion, group thing and all that one. And then made them accept, slowly I will not work for the defense which are harmful. I will take up things which are not harmful, then do the work in terms of, don't prevent me from taking up this defense thing. There are harmful things, there are things. I assure you that I will not do the harmful one. We will restrict ourselves, and then they started this one. After a couple of months, he said, because of the the dissatisfaction of his workers, in order to remove it completely, he says, I will remove no harm from my vision statement. Therefore, when you join me, you have no commitment to no harm. When I removed the no harm as a part of my vision statement, then they had no objection, because you are joining there without that thing. You are not joining there with reference to the no harm thing. No harm is not part of everything. Therefore, when I join you, I know that no harm is not part of everything, therefore I join. Therefore, he got over that one in terms of completely it should not occur again and again. He removed the no harm from the vision statement in terms. Therefore, ethical aspects is something which has to be considered. And then another thing is whatever procedure I do, I know intellectually it is all right. Technically it is all right. Then there is one thing like this one is, you find out from your conscience whether it is right or wrong. Whether from your conscience it is right or wrong. All the action taken by Mahatma Gandhi was based upon conscience. It will make the present condition would make you to act differently. But he will say, I will first, the conscience is the thing before I do it. He will take, say, silence as a particular thing, or say, not take food as one of the thing. All are these things in order to impress upon the people that he will not do this one on the basis of conscience. Therefore, he is following these techniques to prevent people from following that action, supporting that action. Therefore, number of actions which has political gain which you have made is based upon Mahatma Gandhi's conscience approach, which is an ethical approach in terms of it. Therefore, as I said, do no harm is one. Here it's a question of seeing, looking at your conscience in order to do whether it is right or not. That you are convinced that you can do it rightly, you can do it. It will help people, it will not harm others. I see all those other considerations which are there and then say, yes, go ahead, we can do it. If I am going to get independence, I will use this method, I will use non-violence, I will use this. I am convinced that these are the right things to do. If you want armed one, you want to do this one, I do not accept it, my conscience doesn't accept it. Therefore, I will say, don't do it. And don't do it, follow my method, and in order to make you do it, I do this penance in terms of various things in terms. Therefore, one way of doing it, therefore, you do your conscience is to, as one of the method of doing that one. Therefore, consensus is one of the major factors in terms of it. Acceptance is one of the things. And then you start doing things in the way in which you want to do. And then any failure in terms of following the procedure is a taboo. It's a taboo, say, morally it is objected by the society that you have not done it properly, and therefore it is not according to our consensus standard. Therefore, what you think is defective, therefore it should be done properly. You have many things in terms of in the present day, in forensic medicine and other things. They said you have not done it properly, you have omitted doing this one, you have done consensus says you do this, do that, do this, then only your forensic report is completely done. And you have not done many things in terms of it, you have failed in doing it, you have not used common sense demands these things, these are the procedures, these are the things, these are the standards for doing them. Your practice should be according to that standard, and you have failed in the standard, you have failed in doing the thing in terms of it. Therefore, it is doubtful to accept your report or something. This is the way things are considered in terms of acceptance of in the case of application. In the application, there are other things, factors which come in. One of the things is, as technology develops, the other things develop, your solutions for practicing practices vary. It's not consensus, but the solutions I suggest, the practice I suggest, the other things vary. Then consensus, if I want it to be common sense, The level of your practice thing should be according to the level of technology at that time. Then only it says, yes, you are doing it according to the variation is in the practices, in the other thing. It's not change of a concept of common sense. Common sense accepts those changes and other things when change happens in terms of this. Therefore, I have to do it. At that time, I cannot apply things which are the development shows. Therefore, when I use that, I cannot use it, say, for a headache. Normally, I give a normal in the conventional method, a pill, antacid, this, that, and other thing. And if your technology says for doing for a long number of people, give an injection, I will not suggest injection in terms. The technology thing I will not take. If it is sufficient to cure it with a simpler method, I will not go to the technology in order to do this. Therefore, I wait for a new thing to come for giving a subject. The other thing, etc., is not the thing. I can follow a conventional one which is simple. Therefore, you give this Ayurvedic medicine, you improve your immune system with your food, you do this, that, and other thing in order to do other things which will prevent it from the disease being affecting your body. Therefore, you can do simpler methods till the other thing comes up in terms of whether alternate medicine comes, alternate thing comes in order to do that one. Therefore, one of the things is a time factor in this process, you see, which is common in many places. You want to cut short the time in the prescribed one, this is the time required. So you require 5 months to test this particular medicine. But today people are dying in thousands in terms of it. Now what happens? The procedure for accepting a particular thing as a medicine to be consumed by human being is prescribed by your pharmaceutical acts in the country. FDA in America. The FDA to accept a particular one as being useful takes about 5 to 6 years in order to approve it. You have to do it because they want to see the after effect of it. If I give a medicine, now it cures it, but its after effect maybe after 1 year you may get cancer. After the other one you may get something else. It may affect your heart. It may affect this one. Therefore they want to see giving this one, this medicine, to cure one should not have problems which comes later to affect the human being. Therefore they take a lot of time. But now what happens? Now the entire thing is people now urgently want this particular disease is destroying you like anything. And then it takes within 3 weeks a person is gone. Therefore I am in a hurry to get a medicine in order to cure it. There are about 10 countries which are doing at various stages. They say they have tested it on an animal, it works, therefore it can be used. It can be used, takes a couple of years by human beings. But now what they say, somebody is dying today, he says give this medicine, you need not test at all. Therefore the common says, try it because this man is going to die any time. Therefore even though you are violating the principle of accepting that medicine for its treatment by human being, by the agencies concerned, by your act, by other things, etc., should be you, what they call it, close your eyes and then give this in terms of the. Therefore, is this common sense or not? What I am saying is whether is this common sense, trying it common sense, it's a trial. I am taking it common sense for a trial. And if it succeeds, then I said give this as a regular one. My common sense accepts that if it succeeds, if this medicine cures this one in terms of it, then it becomes the medicine. That cure is Not necessarily it should go for 10 years, 10 months, 15 months, even within it. Therefore, many people say, following this method of this one, it has cured something, it has prolonged my time, I have been able to do it. Therefore, try to do all this to postpone the effect of that whatever disease is concerned. If it takes 3 weeks to go complete that disease takes it, make it 2 months in order to do it. I may be able to get something in. Therefore, in this method, these are all common practices acceptable, though I am violating all the rules in regulation. Therefore, these are all social problems where time is a factor. The other thing is a factor. Like that time, every component has this problem. Creates like just time is one factor. But I am giving you examples of time in terms of this one, taking the present day, COVID as a thing, where you have to postpone it, do this, and then you are preventing methods or so many things in order to do it. Open an hospital, de-infect the thing, do something else, put you in, say, in a quarantine for some time. All these are methods in order to delay the impact of the disease, to see that you are able to survive those periods in terms of the thing, in terms of it. Even though they violate common sense, you accept the application of that. The general consensus is, yes, try these things even though it doesn't fulfill our earlier steps or procedures or something. You can violate the thing. And then there are other things also in life in terms of consensus, where doing a thing is wrong, you put a heavy fine for doing a thing. Suppose in the case of, say, buses or truck drivers, they said, they will fine them if they use, say, the petrol or any other thing, because it creates carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. Therefore, if you use it, and they said you change over to CNG, and they gave time if you do this in CNG and other. They said if people who do not CNG continue to change over to CNG, after some time, say they give them time, etc., after that, they said they will fine them. They will fine them heavily in terms of it, so that they change over the thing and then not use the other one, follow this practice. Now what happens, the man who is the truck driver or the bus driver or the bus company, whatever it is, say how much is the fine? Fine is about nominal, say 1,000, etc., if you violate it or something. And the bus uses it out for 50 people. What does this fine mean? 20 rupees more or the other thing. I increase the fare by that method and I say I will pay the fine and run the I am completely violating the thing. The bus driver group consensus is you pay the fee and then do add it on to the customer, You see that the service is continued. For him, continuing the service is important. I cannot keep the thing idle for months together in order to change over to the new technology. Therefore, pay the fine. That becomes a common sense consensus for violating a particular thing. Though the consensus should see that it is done properly, but consensus, general group of those people who are running it says do it like that. The same thing happens wherever you have government restrictions, penalty and other things. Say earlier you have transport of material from one state to another, your products or some such thing. You have tariffs at every state change over from one state to the other. And then what happened? Everywhere they used to grease the palm, as they say, or the people concerned who are protecting it, allow it to go further. That's the common. Every small child, 1-6 people will do the common thing. Consensus was pay the graft and then go, in terms of the thing. That becomes the common practice in terms of the. Though it is negative, what I am telling you is common sense is to be positive. But even negative consensus can have, this becomes a common practice. Just as you buy, pay this, this, so on. The same thing when there is any inspection, you grease his hand and say the inspection report is good. The procedure is not followed, the other one has to be taken, action has to be taken to prevent all these ones in terms of it. Wherever there is a permission to be taken, there are points of greasing the hand, you see. Wherever a permission has to be taken, there are points of greasing the hand which gets over you. Therefore, generally, if you want to build a house, you calculate it and include it as part of your expenses of your house building. That I have to do this, do that, pay him, pay somebody else, pay something else before I get my license, approval for doing this. Therefore, in my overall thing itself, it's a common thing to accept it and include it as part of your. Therefore, in the application of this one, you have many complications. Even negative things have to be accepted as a consensus. Consensus is a common practice, see, in terms of it. But the procedures should be changed in terms of the thing. Therefore, in the application of the consensus, you have many things that happen in terms of it. Solving them is a major problem by society, by changing the attitude of people, changing something else, the other one. Even on an international level, the consensus becomes very difficult. In the World Trade Organization, the Paris Agreement, which is preventing the emission of carbon dioxide, should be reduced, and then that was and every country should take action. And with a series of the consensus is a set of compromises. As I told you, a consensus is a set of compromises. There's a lot of give and take in terms of it. And then all the people accepted on the basis of that what they should do. If carbon emission is there, if my thing is there and the underdeveloped country is suffering on account of my thing, they said, I will give you some grant for that one in terms of it. That's how they started. Got compromises accepted in terms of the thing and the thing. But suddenly United States said, I am withdrawing from the World Trade, Paris Agreement. Why? Here my country requires energy and in large quantity for my development. And I have a lot of coal fields which I cannot use. And a coal field employs a lot of people, thousands and thousands of people. I am able to give employment, I am able to do it all. Now I am prevented from doing this. It is Paris Treaty. Doesn't do that one. Therefore, if I am in the Paris Agreement, I have to follow the Paris Agreement, I cannot open my coal mine. Therefore, he says that I have to open the coal mines, I have to violate all the things. Produce carbon, do all that thing. I don't worry about it. I can control with reference to my country, I can manage it in terms of it. Therefore, he says, I will not sign. I have withdrawn on that basis in terms of why country should withdraw now. He says the Paris Agreement cripples my economy in terms of, therefore I want to do my full one, I will withdraw from that one in terms of that. Therefore, the object is that you violate the thing until, because it's a powerful country, people accept it, you see. The whole thing, if it has been a smaller one, all would have found on them and then said, stop the thing. Which is a big country, enormous country, we depend upon it for so many things. We do not want to antagonize his opinion. Every big country is dependent on that in terms of technology, in terms of money, in terms of so many things. Therefore, they close their eyes and then allow these things to do, and then do this one in terms of it. Therefore, in the application of the procedure practices, there are a lot of problems, and there are many components, and everywhere it should be solved according to the technology and knowledge level at that time in the country. Then only it can solve the problem in terms of the practices are different. The concept that it is common sense doesn't change. The application of practices will change, it will be new, but the application of the practices which have consensus of the people concerned, or the society concerned, or the profession concerned, continues to be common sense. If I follow their practices, if they follow practices any time, then they are the consensus. And what I do is called common sense. That's why I want to say common sense is a concept, is a mental concept. The concept doesn't change, but the practices change over years, on the basis of technology, environment, and other things. And ultimately, that is how the world progresses in terms of it. That's how common sense is done, consensus is done. All these are factors which one has to face in the world and try to adopt it to particular situation in order to solve a problem. It's all problems in problem solving. Consensus is one of the methods which suggests a best practice in terms of application, but then that will change that will vary on the basis of the technology at that any time, and then the consensus obtained by a group at that time, and therefore that's how the thing. But the concept as a common sense doesn't change. All the things that are practiced at various levels are called common sense in terms of. The content doesn't, content changes, content is very, but the concept remains steady. We call it common sense by any other. That's what I just want to say.